Whatever, man, as long as it works. I haven't listened to the last one. But 7 or 8 people listen to us, so that is what's the percentage increase in that, Pat?
100%.
Well, it would be over 100%, right?
It'd be 700% if you listened to us last time.
I love juking the stats. 800% increase in our listenership.
Yar.
You know what I've learned? I think through working in the system, I think here's how you do it. So you declare a goal, right? And you just really give people binders and stuff like that. I'm like, this is what we're gonna do. And then you kind of slowly taper off, and then at the end of it, you make a big poster and with like a slight percentage increase, and just be like, victory, we did it, hooray! And that's all you have to do in life.
Yeah, especially in business.
Yeah.
But now we're in the field of Dilbert jokes. Hey, Peter, what do you call it whenever someone from middle management goes to upper management?
Scott Adams is still smarmy.
A promotion.
Yeah. You know what's sad is I like Dilbert, but I don't like Scott Adams.
Yeah, that's really sad, because I used to like Scott Adams till I learned anything about him.
Yeah, that's the way I think people are with me. They're like, yeah, I liked him, and then he talked.
Yeah.
So this is, if you're just tuning in, this is,
We're those muckrakers now.
Yes, we're no longer Pat and Pete in the morning. We are now those muckrakers, because we like stirring up crap, and there's plenty of crap to go around in the news. And it was also a really cool turn of the century phrase they used to use for people that would expose like shady business practices and corruption.
Right. Today we just call it the media, right?
Yeah. Well,
it's just news now. Back then, though, it was unusual.
Teddy Roosevelt had a really good saying about, like, muckrakers are great, but they've got to know when to stop raking the muck. Bully. And I'm like, yeah, that sounds like, muckrakers are great as long as they don't say anything bad about me.
Yeah. He is prominently featured in quite a few of their old cartoons, though, including our new Twitter avatar.
Oh, that's true. Our new Twitter avatar brought to you by a Teddy Roosevelt.
Yeah, we can be found now at those muckrakers on Twitter and muckrakers@gmail.com.
So please,
those muckrakers@gmail.com.
Please send all of your angry emails, your angry comments, because the one thing about me and Patrick is we love to fight, but we're getting older, so we're not that good at it physically. But the internet is a great place to fight. If you're not that good at it physically, you can fight with your words, and I really enjoy it. It makes me real happy.
Yeah, we can e-thug like motherfuckers, but, if we met in real life, we would probably just yell, not the face, and, back away.
Oh, well, you might yell, not the face. I would be like, oh, I'm excited about this, and then 2 minutes into it, I'm out of breath and getting my butt kicked, and I'm like, I've made a huge mistake.
Tripping over a cinder block again?
Yeah, like that fight I got into when I was younger, and got beat up by a guy who looks like Fat Fabio.
Yeah.
I'm sad. I think that video is still on the internet somewhere, but I can't find it for the life of me.
I've looked for it everywhere. Listeners, if you can find it, tweet it at us, and I don't know, you'll win a prize. The first person to do this. It's called One Up versus Phoenix or something. Phoenix?
No, Phoenix. The guy's name was like penis, but with an H. It makes it even more insulting. It's like I lost the fight to this guy, and his name is Phoenix.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's when I tell my stories to people at work. They keep going, they go, yeah, I feel like you're playing that game, One Truth and a Lie, but you've been playing the long version of it, and because these all sound like lies, and I go, guys, I'm with you. It does sound like I'm lying, but I promise, these things have all happened.
Yeah, and there's been a lot of very weird things that have happened to us. One time we were writing a play, right? And we were given one instruction. It was a 24-hour film festival, and we were given one instruction, one rule. No having the main characters consume fecal matter. That became a central plot point, a central element.
Well, what are you going to do if you tell a writer, all right, you can write everything you want, but don't write about that? Well, that's where my mind goes.
Yeah. Now, with this podcast, our one rule is no directly threatening any sitting member of Congress, right?
Yeah.
Last podcast, that's Peter was dancing around that as well as he possibly could with his catching influenza and visiting the White House.
Hey,
Peter goes to Washington.
I just said if I got deadly influenza, the last thing I might like to do is go to Washington and visit our hallowed halls of Congress and the White House. What What?
Shake hands with a few people after coughing into it.
Yeah, because
Accidentally.
I don't carry a handkerchief. I do. I really do hope they let us keep this going from Gitmo. That's going to be amazing.
Yep.
Live from the torture chambers of Gitmo.
Live from the torture chambers of Gitmo. Peter, I am so hungry. How are you?
I was severely beaten yesterday with a water bottle.
Waterboarded for 9 hours. It was boiling hot.
If we can go back to waterboarding for a second, it's really weird to me that people still argue. They're like, nah. Back, remember the argument? Nah, waterboarding's not torture. Wow, it's not really. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, how
Well,
is?
It's because they're imagining a person just getting a bottle of water poured on their head or something like the ice bucket challenge. They don't know what it actually is. They've certainly never had it happen to them. They're talking out their asses. They have no clue what they're saying.
Remember the word stress poses when they're like, it's not torture, it's stress poses. I'm like, you mean like chaining somebody up by their like arms for a long period till their arms come out of socket? That's not torture. But we're not even arguing that anymore. We just go, yeah, we should torture people. We're all about that now. Not us personally. I feel like the country. I personally am pretty against anything that I wouldn't want done to me. I kind of don't want to do that to someone else.
Hey, yep.
But
if we ever have a prison reform episode, that'll be a field day.
Every argument seems to come down to I feel like the people that are arguing that are pro torture, that are pro no gun legislation, all of their arguments come down to like, what if you were Jack Bauer and you had 5 minutes to find the terrorist, and the only way you could do it was torture? Would you torture then? And I'm like, no, because you're not going to be able to find out anything useful and verifiable in 5 minutes. What are you talking about? Like,
right.
Also, why are you Jack Bauer? Clearly you're not Jack Bauer.
Like, if the terrorists are going to get away with everything in just 5 minutes time, the person you're torturing is probably aware of this, and if they're not aware of that, then they don't know enough information to help you, actually solve the case. So, either way, if they know I've just got to hold out 5 minutes, they can do that. Usually, if people do break under torture, ideally it's because they've lost all hope, but also that's just kind of a Hollywood thing. People don't actually break under torture. They lie to you under torture, like at witch hunts. Yes, my neighbor, he's the witch.
Well, I disagree. I think people, because the idea is that everybody breaks under torture, and no one can outlast torture. They
tell you whatever will get you to stop torturing them.
So they'll tell you the truth, and they'll tell you truth, lies, whatever. They'll tell you they shot Kennedy just to make the torture stop, which makes the intelligence you're getting useless because you don't know what's true and what's not, because they'll tell you anything. It's the same way I feel when a Nickelback song used to come on the radio and I was like unable to reach the radio. I would have willingly told somebody anything just to get Nickelback to stop playing.
Yep.
Oh, Nickelback.
I was the guy on the grassy knoll.
Please stop.
Just turn this off.
So yeah, let's jump into some gun control debates. Patrick?
But first.
We want to do
first. Yeah, I want to just jump back to something from last week, because a lot's happened since our last podcast, and also I learned about some new stuff since our last podcast.
We still don't know how many sitting total black senators there have been in the U.S. Congress. I just want to let you guys know.
I have not bothered to Google it.
We've done zero research, and I feel a little bit ashamed, but I still argue that I'm pretty sure it's more than 9.
Yeah, I mean, my guess is that not a single listener has bothered to check that out. So. Well,
here's the other problem. I can't name more than 9. I think I could maybe name 2, maybe, and that would be tops. It's I'm a terrible human being.
I
just agree. Don't come back and help me out or anything. Just go, yeah, you are.
Yeah.
Asshole.
I was trying to think of 2 members myself, so I'm just like, yeah, okay. He's still going, so let me just think of this.
You just don't blame shit. You're like, yeah, you are an asshole, and you're just like, how many can I name? So, does Colin Powell have a brother?
I was wondering, it's like, did Elizabeth Warren say she was black in college, and if so, can I use her?
I feel bad again, but I don't really know what Elizabeth Warren does besides get insulted by the president.
That's basically it.
Was she the one that he said, he was like, she was always coming to me for money. She was begging for it. She would do anything. And I mean anything. Was that her?
It was a different woman he was attacking.
See, I can't even keep the women straight that he's attacking.
Yep. But, so yeah, I was wondering last week, as well, accusing the Democrats of being the bad guy here because we expect the GOP to be a bunch of monsters, and the Democrats are supposed to stand up to the monsters. And they just didn't. They let Mitch McConnell have his way. And so I'm just like, that means that the people in DACA are just screwed at this point. There's really nothing you can do for them. Except then I learned that as far back as January 9th of this year, a judge had already ruled that DACA cannot end. And now a second judge this last week has come out and ruled that. So
has Trump attacked
really?
Has Trump attacked the courts yet? Because he likes to do that.
He likes to, but like no one's really talking about this. This is a thing that happened, and now it's just obscured for some reason.
Well, if it's obscured, then that means both sides win. That means it sounds like Republicans got to kick out the dirty immigrants, and that means that the DACA recipients get to stay, and people aren't up in arms about it. So it's kind of a win-win in that it's a paper victory for the Republicans, and it's an actual victory for the Democrats and humanity in general.
Yeah, it's like everyone got together and decided, it's like, you know what, let's just not say anything. The deplorables are not the type to fact check stuff, clearly. So, Trump voters will never know that no one's been deported, and we will know that no one's been deported, so great.
What they can do,
wins if we just stay quiet about it.
What they can do, and it's almost impressive, is they're really good at making like little PowerPoint graphics with fake numbers. Because I see them post them all the time. They're just like, under the Obama administration. And it's just like, 49 million immigrants crossed the border illegally and took top-paying jobs at Goldman Sachs. And it's just like weird numbers of stuff. Like, like 3 billion veterans died of starvation. It's just like those numbers.
3 billion veterans died of starvation because we had to feed chain immigrants, chain migrants. We had to feed them with your tax money, so
we fed those
types of things.
The veterans were fed to the chain migrants.
Yep.
But it's just like, dude, just because it's on a PowerPoint doesn't make it right. Somebody's just churning. Maybe it's the Russians. Maybe they're just like, we have PowerPoint technology, and we will just make a bunch of this. Like I'm like, you don't check your facts. Like when I hear something that is like blatantly untrue, like a crazy rumor, I'm like, huh. Let me go on the internet. Let me Snopes it. Let me other stuff. Let me check it out and like see what's up.
And I was coming up with a lot of news for this week to just sort of have like a grab bag of facts, and then yesterday happened in Florida, and that just sort of makes the rest of this stuff seem very unimportant. Like, this is a fun story. Housing Department and Sleepy Time advocate Ben Carson conned out of $133 million, which they gave to another Puerto Rico whenever they gave another Puerto Rico contract to a company that wasn't even licensed. They were just conned, and okay. Oh, and Kellyanne Conway, she's in charge of combating the opioid epidemic. That's General Kelly's defending the multiple wife beaters now that's had to resign. Okay, but all this is just gone now, out the window, because our main story for this podcast is
another shooting.
Yep.
Or, I guess more specifically, another mass shooting in a school, which is the worst place to get shot because most people don't want to be there anyway.
Exactly.
At least if I got shot at an Arby's, I'd be like, you know what? I deserve this. It's probably better for me anyway that I don't eat here. I made this choice. I could have eaten a salad.
Yep.
Yeah, man, that's like... So in Florida, this, do you have the guy's name and his bona fides and all that?
Geez, no.
Patrick, did we do any research at all for this?
His name's Nicholas Cruz.
So this guy Nicholas Cruz, and I've read a little bit.
19 years old. He's former high school student. He was kind of expelled for exhuming violence. I don't know.
Exhibiting extremely disturbing behavior. So what I read about this guy was that he was deeply disturbed. His social media profiles are all full of like pictures of guns and like things like animals and stuff he had shot, which is real weird. There was a picture of like a gun and then like a frog he had shot, and I'm like, man, why are you shooting frogs?
Very disturbing. There's a picture of him in a MAGA hat, Make America Great Again hat. That's shows that his intelligence level is probably not that high. Also, his teacher said that he enjoyed wearing that around the school. So
Yeah, so there's a lot of disturbing photos of him. He's clearly he's clearly a Trump supporter. And this happened in Florida. He was so weird and disturbed that like the school, all the faculty were told he's not allowed to carry a book bag on school grounds because I guess they caught him once with a bag full of like knives and bullets. And they're like, this is not. So he was like, he'd received psychiatric help. His family was terrified of him. They said that he bought a gun, bought an AR-15, and kept it in a lockbox. They made him keep it in a lockbox. But they're like, but he still has the key, and also he's still allowed to own a gun. So he went into a school and killed 17 people, and the stupid gun control debate begins once again.
and the whole Obama era regulation of psychiatric patients should not be able to buy firearms. Well, that's just one of those, red tape things that's choking mom and pop stores to death. So the day before this mass shooting, our president wisely did away with that regulation. He got rid of it.
Well, Florida, as we know, has almost no gun legislation at all. It's a very very red.
Wild West.
Yeah, it's the sweaty Wild West.
It's the Wild West with crocodiles.
It's the Wild West with crocodiles and more inbreeding.
And Florida man.
So this guy shoots people, and he's still alive. We actually.
This is a rare mass shooter that did not die.
Yeah. So the debate begins again, and already the other day I jumped in one of these Facebook debates because that's what we do. People say stupid stuff, I jump in it. And what I thought was
we always tell ourselves that we got to stop doing this, and then the very next week it's like, well, but this person's incredibly wrong. And then next thing you know, it's 2 a.m. and you're still arguing with a brick wall.
So I want to go a little bit. I want to talk about, because I have his comments pulled up, and he says we'll just name him we'll name him John Doe, right? Since we don't want to blow up anybody's spot here, but he starts going on about the base for our Constitution and starts talking about natural law. And where I jump into is he goes, "You are trying to blame a tool for being used. It isn't about the tool. It is about the actions of the people." Well, right? So guns are tools, right? So you can't blame a hammer for killing people. You should blame the man swinging the hammer.
May I just right quick?
Yeah, jump in, man.
If guns don't kill people, people kill people, then why not get rid of all the guns? Like all of them? Because you're just saying that they're irrelevant anyway, right? What if the criminals get a hold of guns and break into your house? Just because you lost your gun, you're no longer human. You're still a person. So it's an even match, is it not?
Make yourself a human weapon.
You are still a person, so there should be no difference in your fighting prowess. Cain killed Abel with the rock, so find a rock and kill the intruder with that.
I'm gonna want to be there.
Build a bomb right quick and blow him up before he shoots your family.
If guns don't kill people, people kill people. I say, why not get rid of the people? Just all of them, right? Let's get rid of them all. So my reply to John Doe was, then why can't everyone have nukes? They are just a tool. And I'm serious. If you're gonna
jet bombers,
yeah, because listen, man, it's not the nuclear weapons fault. So he responds. He says, nuclear weapons do not fall under what is necessary to feed oneself, their families, or to defend their rights.
Neither do AK-47.
You do realize
their rights? Oh, now hold on. You can ask Kim Jong-un about that. They definitely are needed to defend your rights.
So this is the argument I was saying. I've heard the whole argument for I need a gun to defend myself. But I've never heard anyone go hey man, I need a gun to feed myself. And so my kind of response to this, because he also throws in the Soviet Bill of Rights and how the Soviets suffered because they didn't have the right to bear arms. And so he's like, I got to address one stupid thing at a time. And I'm like, dude, all right, you want to feed your family? Do it with a bow and arrow. Do it with a sharp stick. Farm, because people have been doing that for thousands of years before guns, right? Like, are we to the point now where, like, I need a gun to eat? No, you don't. You just get a little patch of land and farm.
And the whole thing about guns don't kill people, people kill people. And what about toddler accidents, right? Did you know that 21 people are killed each year, not even shot, are killed by toddlers with a gun? And you can say, well, that's the negligent parents, so we can still not have to blame the gun. The toddler didn't willfully kill them, it was negligence, so someone else's fault. But let me pose this question. What kind of Pee-wee's Playhouse of nightmares would you have to live in for the parents to do something equally irresponsible enough to just get a random person killed by a mistake a toddler makes in a household where there are no guns?
What's the secret word in this Pee-wee's Playhouse?
Bang?
Ah!
Whenever you hear a bang, scream real loud, because your mom just died.
Oh my god, it's the best. It's the best, worst Pee-wee's Playhouse ever. So I'm gonna say we need tougher legislation on toddlers. We need mandatory minimum sentencing on these pint-sized predators. I really want that to become a thing, like in the 90s when they kept saying they're called super predators. Well, how about pint-sized predators? And you know why they're so dangerous, Patrick?
Why is that?
Because they can.
Trying to do a Pee-wee.
Because they're so small with their little hands, they can fit in anywhere.
Uh-oh, then you hear the secret word, bang!
But yeah, like, so you need guns to feed your family. Man, go to the AMP, go to the grocery store, buy some food. Where are you living where you're like, I gotta shoot what I eat? Man, like...
Well, food doesn't really feed people, Peter. People feed people. So, you're a person, why do you even need to go to the store for?
So the paraphrase...
I don't know, I'm upset at the guns don't kill people, people kill people, because that's so, like, nobody has ever argued that a gun is a sentient murder machine. Nobody's ever made that argument. People just pretend like it's something, and then they argue against that straw man.
We need tougher legislation on these sentient murder bots.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's to a point where, like, people are being, like, sold this fear every time, because here's the thing, every time kids get killed in a school, the arms manufacturers, much like the pharmaceutical makers, when people overdose, like, they're winning, because more people buy their product, especially with guns. The more shootings happen,
whenever a school shooting happens, then the NRA can bounce up and say, the government's coming to take your guns. They loved having Obama, because they could be like, Obama's coming for your guns, and that scares the shit out of people, and they go out and buy thousands more guns, and the problem gets worse and worse and worse.
I looked at it from the point of view of, like, how are you arguing for this shouldn't infringe upon my gun rights when, like, children are being murdered? And then it occurred to me, too, they've gotten to this point now where instead of facing it, you got, like, these Alex Jones, it was a false flag operation to take your guns. It's not real. They're not really dead.
They really did argue that. He argued that about frickin' Sandy Hook, that was a false flag operation, and those are child actors. No one died there.
Yeah, I'm going to argue that, like, Alex Jones is a false flag person, and he's not a real human. He's a pile of sentient garbage that's trying to take over, because guess what, Wilda? Wilda Patrick Wilda, I'm using both your names now. Guess what, Thrift?
What?
If we make this planet uninhabitable, where people can no longer live, guess who's left?
Trubbish.
The garbage.
That's a sentient trash Pokemon. Yes. Trubbish. Alex Jones.
In the land of the landfill, the garbage man is king.
Then we'd hear Alex Jones, producer, go, coughing! And then it's time to roll camera. And...
Sometimes I wish there was tougher legislation on Pokemon, Wilder. Patrick Wilder.
Indeed. So, another meme that you might see going around is, cars kill X number of people each year, and no one talks about taking them away. Well, two things. One, nobody's talking about taking guns away. We just want them to be more regulated. Regulated like, Peter?
Cars. Oh yeah. So I used to drive a little scooter, right? And there's this whole thing with, like, it's big in New York right now, like scooter and moped legislation, and they don't want mopeds on the streets because people are like, they're dangerous. They'll very slowly run people over, and it's uncomfortable. And so it's a big thing in Georgia. As long as the engine was under 50 cc's, you didn't have to have any you didn't have to have a license. You could drive it on the street. You didn't have to have a license plate or anything, so it was basically like scooter country. Now, I got pulled over a bunch on that scooter, even though I was within the bounds of the law. Now, in New York, you have to have licensing and all this stuff for basically an electric bicycle. You have to you have to take a trip to the DMV. You have to pay money. You have to pass a test. Like, there's all this stuff that goes into just getting an electric bicycle. But you have to do less than that in Florida to own a death machine.
Yes.
It makes no sense. And yeah, cars are regulated. That's the thing. Like, you got to get your license. You got to get your license renewed. You know, why? You know, because they'll make a list and they'll come by and take our guns. And like, that's never ever going to happen. And if we're to that point, we got so much bigger. They're just going to drone strike your house.
Yeah, and the main thing that they could do that would really help this whole situation is to make you have to pay for insurance, just like with cars.
Yes.
Just like with anything that you own that could be potentially deadly. Let's slap some insurance pricing on it.
That's what we're selling today, guys. Push this through. This should be a thing. The way to fix the gun problem is gun insurance. Get the insurance companies involved. You have to have your gun insured. So that way, when your dumb, son kills 17 people because he's mentally unstable, guess what? Your insurance premium's going through the roof, baby. And it's gonna price out crazy people, because crazy people generally don't make a lot of money.
Crazy people that want to stockpile 150 AK-47s.
Well,
now they have to pay a premium on every single one of those, because the more potential deadliness a weapon has, the more the interest on it's going to be, right? So every one of those things are going to cost them through the nose.
Yeah, and I absolutely.
But of course, if you just want to own a few guns because you're crazy and you want to own a gun, it's not going to be that bad. If you want to own a well-regulated militia of sentient robot guns in your basement, then it's really going to run up the old bill.
That'll cost you. Yeah, that's the thing. Friggin' gun insurance. That's how you fix that. No one's taking your guns. You're gonna have to pay. Sorry, buddy. Why should I have to pay for my gun? Well, because when you have a bad day and you shoot 30 people, they should be covered for their pain and suffering. Also, if the insurance company goes, yeah, you shouldn't drive because you're friggin' blind, then you can't get a license. So if the insurance company goes, yeah, you shouldn't have a gun.
If a person is crazy, then they just shouldn't be able to own a gun, just like if someone's blind, they shouldn't be able to drive a car.
Or if you've been convicted of just running over 30 people with your car and somehow you get out of prison, you're probably not getting your license back.
Yep.
Now, won't this just put guns and cars into the hands of bad guys? Well, some of them maybe, but when they get caught carrying it or it's found out, they'll be arrested.
Yeah. Remember, there's been so many incidents with bombs where people have been caught before they're able to kill a lot of people because it's illegal to own bombs, right? Because it's illegal to own bombs, then you can't just order a bunch of bomb-making things, because then the FBI's like, this person just ordered everything that they needed to make a shitload of pipe bombs from this one website. Maybe we should check them out.
Fuck you! You're infringing on my civil bomb rights!
Plus, you gotta actually know what you're doing when it comes to building bombs. Remember the underwear bomber? He decided he'd blow up a plane with a bomb in his underwear, failed to make the bomb right, and all he did was set his crotch on fire. Nobody died, and he had singed pubes.
You don't have to be
smart. That's what happens whenever you regulate stuff such as bomb-making materials. People don't know instantly how to do it right. They can get caught doing it. Like the Boston bombers were caught making their bombs by 3 different people who just didn't say anything. Now, it can't be helped that they didn't say anything, but they did catch the people. If they had said something, then it could have been prevented. But if they were using guns, nobody would have stopped them, because they would have saw them with guns and been like, well, that's legal, so whatever. But if you have to have insurance for it, then you can check that. And
gun insurance,
because they don't have it.
So we do this thing on our Twitter account, which is, what is our Twitter account again, Walter? Because I'm going to keep plugging this throughout the show.
At Those Muckrakers.
So at Those Muckrakers, we try to push a conspiracy theory. We try to get a hashtag trending. This go around, we're just going to be pushing hashtag gun insurance. Hashtag gun insurance. Call your local congressman, and when he's like, "What's gun insurance?" Directed to this podcast, and let's make gun insurance happen. I want to see the arguments about gun insurance, because then no one's taking away your guns. You're just regulated, you know?
Yep.
So this guy I got in an argument with, we got into a deeper argument about like natural rights, and it's the government shall not infringe upon the rights of the people, and the old thing. And so I brought up, like, I'm going to tell you a little story real quick because I like to tie history to this. Right after the country was formed, and I believe it's why we were still operating under the Articles of Confederation. We might have at that point switched over to the not the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution. So we were kind of in that area, right? It was a brand new government, and we had to show that it could work. And there was this guy named Daniel Shays, and Daniel Shays was like he was an ex-war veteran, fought for the War of Independence and all that stuff. He was very mad that him and a bunch of farmers had to pay taxes, and they said, didn't we just fight a war about taxes? I don't want to pay no more taxes. Like, he was very upset. And everyone goes, no. See, what we said was, we were mad because it was taxation without representation. You had representation, and your representation sucks, and you lost. Pay your taxes. And so Shays was like, I'm going to rebel. And the government's like, all right, here we go. Let's try this out. So he rebelled. Army came down, and they all kind of just fizzled out. It ended, And it was really important for the government because it showed that the rule of law stood. And the only way the country works is if we fight our battles in the government, not an armed insurrection to protect our rights.
Yep.
So my argument with this guy was, I'm like, man, look, you have to fight your battles in the halls of Congress and through the rule of law, or else this country doesn't work. Some armed group of dudes with like AKs are not going to save democracy. That's the death of democracy. That's sectionalism. That's civil war. Things fall apart when it is.
That's how ISIS is trying to change their government, and look how well that's working out for them.
So his reply, and I just want to start hurling insults at him because his reply was just like, "Oh, well, Congress is bought and paid for," and I go, "Then stop being a coward and hide behind a gun and vote those dudes out."
For people that claim to hate ISIS so much, Trump supporters are a lot like ISIS. Both groups are highly nationalistic, extremely against globalism. They both think that the best way to solve your problems is by owning a bunch of AK-47s. They probably both have about the same level of education. I mean, just all this stuff.
I understand the fear of government overreach. I'm a very big, that's one of my big fears. It's why I don't support the Patriot Act. It's why I don't support, the infringement of civil liberties. I'm a very, very big fan of the right of due process, that if you are arrested by your government, then you should be given a speedy, even if you're not a citizen, if you're arrested by the government, you should be given a speedy trial, access to counsel, and that it should be determined sentencing. You should be held indefinitely, right? Those, I think, are rights. But nobody's pushing for that. No one's going, man, let's get these dudes and get them on a trial and get them sentenced. Let's just hold people indefinitely. That's what I'm scared of. And no one sees me fighting that battle. Just go, my gun is what keeps me free. No, dude, your support of the government and, your support of, your own constitution, all of it is what keeps you free. This whole, let's inhibit free speech. Let's inhibit the right to peaceably assemble. I don't know why people that are so against government overreach they are not behind protesting at all. You see, we should enact legislation that makes it legal to protest. People shouldn't take a knee. What are you talking? You just said you're scared of government overreach. You have guns because you're scared of the government, but you're like, yeah, no, we shouldn't. People should not be allowed to gather. That is not. People should not get in a group and say things I disagree with.
Yeah, the whole take a knee thing bothers me, mostly because of the way Fox News handles it. Is they keep saying it's highly disrespectful to the military, and they've said that so many times that military vets start to believe it after a while. When it's not at all disrespectful to the military, Fox News just wants to shut the protesters up and make them stop.
I feel like it's incredibly, and I think a lot of veterans aren't.
It also creates a good octave for them, because it's some group to disagree with that they can point at and keep their viewers occupied.
Because here's the thing, I have my own views on veterans, and we have friends that are veterans and have suffered a lot in war. I don't generally agree with war. I don't agree with the reasons they went over, but at the same time, I respect their lifestyle. If this is something you feel patriotic, that you feel the need to serve, by all means, go do it. But my argument at the same time is if someone's taking a knee during the national anthem and you're a veteran and you fought for our freedom, You should respect that we live in a country where someone can take a knee, somebody can gather and protest, and it's okay because we're that country. Like, you should be proud. That's not disrespectful. That's what you fought for.
Yep.
I don't like Nazi rallies, but at the same time, it's just sort of like, all right, you want to do a stupid thing, and like, as long as you're peaceably assembling and you're not, your hate speech is not crossing the line into we should take action and hurt people, which is kind of the problem with Nazi rallies. Free speech allows them speech that wants to restrict speech, and that's a whole other problem. But people march and protest stuff that I don't agree with, but I respect their right to protest and speak freely because, good God, man, that's the whole point of what we're doing.
Yeah, because two things. One, our Nazi rallies do have people like going around killing people by driving over them, and then our president says, well, many good people on both sides, and that's like a whole other thing.
Yeah, people also don't seem to
But
understand that, like, free speech. Here's my other problem with free
I
speech.
think
Go ahead.
I just think that it's also very important that we don't restrict hate speech, just because sometimes the people doing hate speech are actually right. Like in the case of gay rights, originally that was considered hate speech because people misunderstood what gay meant. That they thought that all gay people were pedophiles. So if you were
Yeah.
pro-gay, you were pro-pedophile, is how the common person viewed it.
Yeah.
So pro-gay speech was hate speech for a long time. But it was important to let them speak until eventually they were able to convince people, no, that's not what we're
Two
about
different
at
issues,
all.
yeah. And I think that
Issues were conflated there.
yeah, I think what is classified as hate speech needs to be very important and very specific. Now, what's interesting about free speech, and a lot of people don't seem to understand, and I hate even calling this nuance. So people will go like the tiki torch Nazis, and they'll go out and they'll yell about how we should kill, we should kill the immigrants, and we should kill we should kill the Jews, and this, that, and the other.
Yeah, Jews will not replace us, they kept shouting.
And then
Many good people on those sides, according to our president.
and then what happens is people take photos of them, and then it turns out that your job doesn't want to be associated with a guy that's on the front page of Times, the Times of the Tiki Torch, going like, Jews will not replace. So free speech means the government can't come arrest you for speech unless it falls under like hate speech. It doesn't mean that you don't have to face consequences for your speech. Me as a teacher, I have to be very. Go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt. I was just going to say, also keep in mind that once we give one administration the authority to arrest hate speech, then the other administrations all get it too. So let's say under Obama, if you did a Nazi speech, you were arrested. Well, under this current guy, do you really think under Trump Nazis would be arrested?
Yeah, and
no, it would be black people getting arrested for trying to say that their lives matter. It's like, our lives have intrinsic value too. Lock them up.
And that's
disrespecting our troops.
That's where I'd be very careful, is what we call hate speech. And I like the old definition of hate speech is kind of like yelling fire in a crowded theater. Anything that is endangering people's lives or well-being, I believe that falls under.
That is actually restricted. Like, yelling fire in a theater is... So hate speech would be like one step departed from that.
That's why whenever I'm in a theater that's on fire, man, I just keep my mouth shut and stay on the right side of the law. People are like, do you see smoke? And I'm like, nope, you're not going to get me in jail for that.
I mean, Bush saw smoke, and look how wrong he was about that. So it's better to just keep your mouth shut.
I don't even understand that joke.
Where there's smoke, there's fire, and that's why we went over into Iraq to look for weapons of mass destruction.
Man, did you stretch before that reach for that punchline? Did you limber up for that? Because I was like, all right, maybe there's some weird thing about Bush smoking or setting something on fire, but nope, he's just taking a long walk to like a short punchline.
I mean, I'm doing laundry, so it's like...
This is why we need a laugh track. So we just be like, taped in front of a live studio audience. But yeah, but like, yeah, hey, that's a problem. But like, I feel like free speech and freedom to assemble is super important, and that's being attacked right now. Like, I've seen a graphic of states that they either are or were trying to push through legislation that either A, made it more difficult to assemble to protest, and B, made it like lawful to drive your car through a group of protesters. Which seems like a direct way to support that Nazi who ran over a bunch of protesters.
Because corporations are people and money, speech, and so companies should have unlimited speech. we should also give protesters the right to run people over with unlimited gas mileage. I don't know.
Well, what other scenario can you think of where anybody would support like we need to be softer on vehicular homicide,
Huh.
right? And what other thing could you try to justify? Like, you know what? I think that these charges for people running over other people in their car, these I think these sentences should be lighter. It was like if we go all the way back to the stand your ground thing, and I wish I remember the source, but I read it was very interesting. It had an unintended effect when they started really pushing the stand your ground laws, in which I believe that like drug dealers and felons were gunning people down and then like getting off or trying to use the I felt threatened so I stood my ground rule and shot this dude, and people were like, well, I didn't mean for it to apply to non-white people.
Yeah, what was I gonna say? I can see where this does sound like it would be a common sense thing, but like a common sense law, like if someone threatens you and you use your Second Amendment right to defend yourself, you shouldn't have to go to jail for life for just defending yourself. But like with most common sense things, it doesn't really pan out in the real world. Like the whole a good guy with a gun could stop a bad guy with a gun. That one lady fired at a guy in a parking lot that two police officers was chasing,
Yeah, that was
thinking that she was, and she did this because the NRA said, "Yeah, go ahead and do this. This is what you got to do." And they disappeared in a hurry when someone actually did it.
that was my favorite story. Was a guy's shoplifting, I think at like a Walmart. He's running through the parking lot. Cops are like, "All right, let's chase him." And this lady goes, "I'm a good guy with a gun." Blam, 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 and just starts shooting up the parking lot, and was swiftly arrested because you should not. You don't know why the police let the police shoot at him. If the police aren't shooting him, and you know how like how sort of trigger crazy a lot of police can be, maybe don't. Maybe this is not the venue to start firing into a crowd.
Yeah, I saw an interview with her afterwards, and she was like, "I know what my takeaway from this here is. I'm never helping anyone out again for the rest of my life."
Good, don't. I don't want your help. If your help is a
Yeah.
bullet.
Yep.
My God. Oh, I dropped my papers. Can you do you mind help? Ah! Like that's no one wants that help, lady. The cops got it. Like, relax. You know, holster your weapon. I meant to go back in that earlier. Sorry, when I was talking about stand your ground, I was not inferring that all drug dealers and felons are black. I just realized that it's going to sound very. What I meant to say was
it's okay. I very much keep blanket saying that all Trump supporters are very dumb.
well,
But
what
I do cringe every time I say that. Like I realize I just said that, and I'm like, but fuck nuance.
Well, what I meant by that was that
So,
they want this stand your ground law to apply. I feel like only to white people, and not to anybody that is non-white, and also not to anybody that is a that like is a felon or is in any way breaking the law. So they only want that sort of like white cowboy that rides in the. They want it to apply to that guy. But when it applies to anybody else, they get real worried. Like if you ever read about the gun control laws in California, why they're so strict, it's because of the Black Panthers. They started exercising their Second Amendment rights. Like whenever, a black person was pulled over by racist cops, the Black Panthers would just kind of show up with shotguns and they would hang out, and they'd make the racist cops real nervous. And I think at one point they walked into a California Senate or City Council meeting. It was some kind of big mucky muck meeting. So the Black Panthers walked in and they've all got guns, and it's totally legal at that point. And
so we just got to get more black people in more white states to walk around with guns, and then we'll get the regulations that we need.
As much as I hate it, I feel like if you can scare old racist people, you get some legislation passed on the double quick.
Yeah.
Like
I wonder if they would just go ahead and try to, word it. If you're black, you can't have guns.
Well, they did that way back. They did that way back. It was called the Black Codes, and that got struck down. We in U.S. history, there was a time in which they were
if
like,
that happened nowadays, that would be another Trump tweet. Judge overreaches.
well, that's the problem. Is we're in this era of dog whistle politics now, where we'll pass legislation that's very specifically aimed at a specific group, but we won't say it because you can't say. Well, you couldn't say racist things. Now we've come full circle back. Yeah, you can just be racist and apparently nothing happens to you. But that's so much of our legislation has been aimed at like attacking minority groups for whatever reason. And yeah, there's a great documentary if you ever get a chance to watch it on Netflix. It's called 13th, and it's all about the 13th Amendment and the problem with it, in that it says that no one can be held in involuntary slavery or servitude except, if charged with the commission of a crime, and and they trace that through politics, and how legislation got real smart about how to be racist without, writing very specifically, no black people can own guns. Like, so they got real smart about it. It was a fascinating watch. If you ever get a chance, check it out. Definitely worth seeing.
So that's like prison chain gangs? Is
Yeah,
slavery once you've been charged with a felony?
yeah. So that was a big
Huh.
thing, is like forcing people in prison to work basically in slave conditions and stuff like that.
Yeah, I wasn't 100% on how that worked. I thought for a while that it might have been like when they make license plates and they get paid like pennies on the hour.
Kind of, yeah. It was called the convict lease system, and basically what happened. So after the Civil War, you are now free, but you don't own anything. You don't get anything. You probably don't really have any job skills or know how to read. The only thing that you know is how to work agriculture. So what happens? They passed all these vagrancy laws that are just like, oh, if you look like a vagrant, if you're hanging out on a street corner, we're gonna arrest you. And they would just basically rearrest a
That
ton of.
way, so that way they get all their slaves back.
Yeah, so they basically rearrested a ton of African Americans and put them in. I think it was, a lot of times even worse than slavery. As terrible as slavery is, because the convict lease system was just terrible. Nobody talks about that, and just the weird laws passed during the Jim Crow era, and then we won a lot of we pushed a lot back after during the civil rights movement, but like then it just kind of much like Pennywise the dancing clown, it changed its form and waited and came back in a new form of monstrosity.
Yeah.
The fact that like people are mad at Black Panther and people are like, "Why it's white genocide," is insane to me. They're mad when you make
He's talking about the movie right now. He's talking about the group before.
Yeah, sorry, I should have made that distinction. Yeah, sorry. Black Panther the movie, people are mad about that because, oh God, there's a movie that has an all-black cast and they're superheroes. How dare they? When, I read a great article on Crack the other day where they talked about how race stuff has gotten so bad that we forget that there was already a movie with a black superhero in 1998 called Blade, where all the villains were white and no one even, like, everyone's like, oh, it's a cool movie.
Yeah. That was a great film.
I rewatched it recently, and it's not bad. I tell you, though, I don't really care about 90s techno karate fighting, and I forgot that existed.
I haven't seen it in so long. Like, my only real still around memory of Blade was seeing the third one in theaters, and like me and my friend being the only two white people in there.
Well, it's good. The article brought up a good point. They said that like there's depth to Blade that I didn't think about when I was a kid. Is that like Blade? Not only is he's a black superhero, but like he's half vampire. So basically, he's something that the ruling power elite forced on him that he did not want, and now he fights back against them.
With the power that they forced on him.
Yeah, which is an amazing metaphor. You make that movie now, you got white supremacists picketing the theater. You got the president tweeting about it. But in 98, we were apparently in a better place. We're like, yeah, man, I want to see Wesley Snipes get into some like techno fights with vampires.
I want to see that too now. I had forgotten about this techno fighting thing.
Yeah, they would just play techno music and then he would just fight like 10 guys. And it's like cool the first time, but like, the third time you're like, all right, so none of these guys have backstory, so they're all definitely going to die.
Yeah.
You're just like,
It's
right.
just like, fuck, what's that Keanu Reeves movie?
John Wick?
Yeah, John Wick. I still haven't seen the second one.
I
Very much looking forward to.
I still haven't seen the first one. I don't know. I'm not like knocking Blade. It was just I forgot that I'm never really interested. I don't know, man. I want my fights to have stakes, and so it's just to me it seems really low stakes when dudes are just like.
You need to watch Sausage Party then. All the fights have stakes.
Again, you're reaching for the joke. I don't really want to watch Sausage Party because it's going to sound weird.
I'm just
but
making a pun.
Yeah, the violence depicted in that movie just made me really uncomfortable. I know it's animated, but in the trailer where they're grating the potatoes and the potatoes are like, "Oh Jesus, she's grating off my skin." That made me feel real bad, and I'm like, I can't.
It's supposed to. Like, that's kind of the point of the movie, is that it just does this horrifying stuff.
Yeah, I'd much rather watch techno fights with Wesley Snipes just just smacking people around. What I didn't understand though, and this makes me sad about like a lot of vampire movies, is you got some kind of interesting like villain progression, and you had I think it was Donald Logue was the long haired guy who keeps getting beaten up by Blade, but he's all like super like ha, I got your sword now, my hand. But the other vampires, especially the old ones, they're all like these European, just like, we are vampire. And I'm like, man, what's his backstory? Like, he's like, I'm 1,000 years. I'm like, so you're 1,000 years old, but you're boring as hell. Come on, man. Give me a little...
1,000 years I have yet to develop a personality.
Yeah,
Come at me, bro.
I really hope that if I live to be 1,000 years old, man, I'm an interesting dude. That's all I want. But yeah, so it's just like...
Maybe he's just tired. Like, have you ever been to a nursing home? Nobody in there has a personality. It's just like, where's my pills? That's all they're concerned with.
I hope
it's supper time. Here's my tree. I look at it.
I hope being a 1,000-year-old vampire isn't like just being a really old person, because that kind of takes all the fun out of being a vampire.
Yeah, takes all the fun out of living for 1,000 years if you're just like, well, I started being boring sometime around the Renaissance, and it's only gotten worse.
There's another really great cracked article about why it would be terrible to live forever or for like a really long time. If you guys get a chance, go on Cracked and just read. They're probably one of my favorite, I guess, sources to just read stuff about, because me and Patrick Wilda Thrift, Mr. Thrift, we both I got one article through to Cracked once that they published, and we've tried to get many more through, but their vetting process is amazing. It's like writing a college paper. You got to have several sources for your entries. Like, it's well-researched articles for a comedy site. I have the utmost respect for their journalistic integrity, even if you will read an article called, like, 5 medical things you didn't know about farts. Because you better believe that, like, they've gone...
vetted to death and back.
Yeah, you know they've gone through and, like, looked at the peer research and cited it to support all their 5 things about farts. It's really amazing. It made me a better writer, even though I couldn't get any of my articles through. It definitely, I'm like, okay, so I'm going to do a research article. This is how I do it.
Yeah, it drove me crazy because unless you're like editing it straight away and resubmitting it immediately and the person gets right back on it, they eventually forget who you were, and sometimes their critiques become inconsistent. Like, one of my examples will be the only one they like, and later will be the only one they don't like, and it's like, what do you want?
That happened that happened to the last article I tried to write. I tried to write an article about teaching, and it went through, and I got some positive feedback, but the only problem was they liked, I think, 1 entry out of 5, and they're like, this is really good, but you got to rewrite the other ones. And I'm like, so basically there was one shining example, but I got to rewrite the whole article, and then I'm like, I'm done right now.
Too much work.
Yeah. They pay well, too. They pay, it's like $200 an article, which is amazing.
Yeah.
I feel like so a lot of these clickbait sites, because I read a lot of clickbait articles, and they make me mad because I'm so used to like Cracked, where like you basically start with the least, end with a bang, and it's got a flow to it and all that. And I read all these clickbait things. I'm like, this is bad writing. Someone got paid to write this, and it's just not good.
Yep.
But yeah, back to the government. So the idea of all these laws, I feel like, is they pass them in the sort of understanding, wink, wink, that this only applies if you're white.
Yes. It only applies if you're white, or only applies to you if you're black. It depends.
Did I ever tell you about when I've worked many jobs, and one of the jobs I worked when I was shoplifting prevention at Walmart, and it was right around the George Zimmerman time, and so when you're shoplifter prevention, you keep your eye on like the items that seasonally are going to be stolen a lot, and it was back to school season, so we knew that like school uniforms were a big item that were stolen. So I happened to walk by the school uniform aisle, and I see this couple, and they are throwing school uniforms into a shopping cart like it is the apocalypse. And this, number one, strikes me as odd because I'm like, nobody's got that many kids. But even if they are running like a daycare center, they're not even checking sizes. They're just ripping them off the racks, throwing them, ripping them, throwing them. So I text my boss, and I'm like, hey, I think these people are about to try to steal a whole bunch of school uniforms. And she goes, all right, keep an eye on them. So I'm really clumsy, so I'm trying to like pretend like I'm a customer and like follow them, but like they spot me. So I was like, all right, let me fade back. And they follow me down an aisle, and they've surrounded this couple has surrounded me, and they're just like yelling at me and like, you motherfucker, you following us, huh? You think we ain't got money? You think we ain't got money? And then like they like, you George Zimmerman looking motherfucker, this is George Zimmerman, and so they're calling me George Zimmerman, and the whole time I'm just like
Clearly, they plan to still them at this point if they know what you're thinking, and they only know what you're thinking because they know what they were thinking.
Well, my whole thing was like, I don't. When I was like following shoplifters, like, I didn't follow. I didn't be like, oh, there's a black person, I better follow them. Like, I most of my callers tended to be white people, but they just happened they were black couples, so they're yelling at me and like do something. I wish you would. I wish you would. And I'm like, I'm just
George Zimmerman looking motherfucker.
yeah, and I'm just texting my boss. I'm like, hey, they spotted me. Also, they're yelling at me and possibly going to beat the crap out of me. You take over. I've been compromised. And I just kept going, well, what are you guys talking about? I'm just a shopper here. I'm just a shopper. I'm gonna go now. And then they ditched the buggy and just left the store. But the whole time they're yelling at me. I'm like, George Zimmerman is Hispanic. I don't look Hispanic at all.
Hey, you look Asian.
Yeah, I've been told that before. But it was just so weird. I'm just like, guys, I want to sit down and just have a long conversation with you guys about like, like race and crime and like stuff like that, but they didn't seem like the kind of people that wanted to sit down and talk about the struggle.
Race inequality.
Yeah, it was like $500 worth of clothes, man. That was crazy. That was almost as crazy as the time I saw a guy try to steal a big screen TV.
I wonder why that was their racket, though. Like, any other type of clothes would be way easier to sell. It would be less. You would need a less specific audience to sell it to.
No.
It wouldn't be looked at quite as well.
The school clothes are easy to sell because everybody needs. Like that was around the time all these schools require you to have uniforms for your kids, and it's a really good racket around the beginning of the school year. You just put it out there, go, hey, I got all these polo shirts and khaki pants and all that, kid sizes, all sizes. Come get them. They're cheaper than you'll find in the store. It's a great racket, man. It's like, yeah.
Well, then I learned something about theft today.
Yeah, so you got to imagine if they had $500 worth of clothes, they will probably make a little bit less than 500. But that's a good haul of just pants and shirts.
Yar.
But yeah, so yeah, I don't know, man. It pains me that we're back to this weird like kind of almost going backwards like racially now. I don't like.
Well, the pendulum swings back and forth, and we took a good step forward recently, so now it's time to take a horrendous step backwards. And not just with Obama being the first African-American president, but also with gays getting the right to marry now. Like, that was just a sweep nationwide, so that was really cool. But that's also going to piss a lot of people off.
Yeah.
So I think it pissed off way fewer people than Obama being president. Like, I really think that was a thorn in enough people's side that they, along with Vladimir Putin, were able to appoint this current guy president.
It's just shocking to me that just because Obama was like not a white dude, that just seemed to stick in people's craw. Like they just could not fathom it, and so they just went. And he did, like we talked before. I don't agree with those policies, but I think he did a pretty good job for a guy that was being obstructed at every turn just because he was the first black president.
Well, a lot of people were, just because he was the first black president, because they voted in a whole lot of Tea Party members, and that allowed them to have this armada against him.
Is the Tea Party from doing anything? Is the Tea Party still around?
Yeah, a lot of their people are still in Congress.
Because those dudes were crazy.
A lot of their seats are finally going to come open for the first time in this year, right?
Yeah, vote
because it's been 6 years since they were first all put in mass.
Vote the bums out, I say.
Yeah. They were only put in to say no to Obama. They've never read a line of legislation in their life. They just came in, voted no on whatever Obama said, yes on whatever Mitch McConnell said, end of story.
It bothers me that we don't, and I don't know about you, I don't have a political party, man.
For people out there that, how do I put this? Fun fact, if we do get a majority Democrats in 2018, then Nancy Pelosi will take over for Turtle Man Mitch McConnell. Then if we manage to remove Trump and Pence at the same time, Pence possibly being tangled up in this whole web of Russia. If Trump's unable to appoint a new VP, or Pence doesn't become VP temporarily and appoint a new guy beneath him, if they both get out at the same time, then we could have President Nancy Pelosi.
I don't think the way the political machine will eventually protect itself, even if it has to give up a sacrifice. And I've said this before. My prediction is the impeachment process may not completely remove Trump, but even if it does, I can't imagine it goes any further than just Trump. I can't imagine they would get rid of the vice president, because it also throws our democracy into a tailspin.
Our democracy is in a tailspin, so what happened should reflect that.
No, it should. It should absolutely. Everybody that colluded should be removed. I'm just saying, I don't think, I think it would be very much like the other presidents when, like, he'd be removed, he'd be pardoned, fade off into a life of drinking himself to death.
That's most likely what's going to happen. And I believe that 20, 30, 50 years from now, trials are still going to be going on. The descendants of Mueller, like, as soon as Mueller's done with what he's doing, he's going to pass this case off to 4, 5, 6 other people, and they're going to carry on where he left off, arresting everyone else that was involved in this. This is going to keep going for a long, long time.
Well, my bigger fear is, and we talked about this a little bit before, is that, like, in the next election, because we haven't done anything to stop the Russians from, and I don't even mean colluding at this point, I mean actively vote hacking. We haven't done anything to stop them from doing that they may just become emboldened. They may do it again. Trump may decide to not step down if he ends up winning a second term, or if he ends up losing. He may refuse to step down. We may have a real crisis where we have a man in power that refuses to give it up. And then, I don't know what we'll do. Well, I've talked about this a little bit. I think that, honestly, if he loses the election and refuses to step down because he cries foul, I may leave. I may pack my bags and leave the country, because I'm not going to live under a tyrant. Say what you will about this election. It was close enough that, like, I don't think it's legitimate, but at the same time, I'm not calling for, like, armed revolution. But a president blatantly refusing to step out of office is where I'm just like, all right, if he doesn't get gone, then I'm out.
Which brings us back to not being affiliated with any particular party. It is very hard to say that we would if we did affiliate with Democrats. That's a hard thing to say, because they don't really have a party right now. I have a theory that they have a hidden leader, like, waiting in the background to step forward when it comes closer to the election, because the less we know about him, the closer we get to the elections, the less Fox News will be able to just start making stuff up and throwing things against the wall to see what sticks. Because they have to figure out what propaganda sticks and then really drive that point home. They had forever to do that with Hillary, no time to do that with Obama, and that's why Obama was able to rise up and get past them.
I just saw a thing that was just like, Cory Booker refuses to take money from the super PAC. I think we have our 2020 candidate. And I was like, no, shut your damn mouth. Shut your damn mouth. Shut it up.
Yeah. And, the two-party system sucks. And some people say, well, we'll look at how the third party votes swing the election, but they really don't, because I'm pretty sure that an equal number of Dems and GOP voters, potential ones, move into Libertarian or Green Party.
Well, there was never supposed to be two parties in the government. That was a thing that when they set it up, they were like, yeah, we're not doing a two-party system. And it just has been whittled down to this dumb two-party system. I think the whole way we vote needs to be redone, in that I think, what is it called? There's a name for it, the type of voting where you basically have a couple candidates and you vote, all right, number one, I want this person. If I can't have them, this is my number two. And if I can't have them, I have number three. And
I know what you're talking about.
I
forgot what it's called.
What's wrong with that? I like that. I'm sure, it'll be confusing. There'll be a lot more close races, but I think more people will get a person that more people agree on that way than just two people.
All these constitutional purists and beginning of America purists should know that in the beginning, whoever the number two was at the end of a presidential election, they became the vice president. That means if you really do believe in the Constitution as the founding fathers decreed it, then Hillary Clinton should be VP right now. And when Trump gets impeached for being, Putin's puppet, then Hillary would be president.
Saying. Yeah, I mean, like I think we need, and that's the problem is we need more middle of the road candidates. Okay, yeah. So if it came down to like if you put a voting ticket up with four people on it,
It's really hard to have a middle of the road candidate because Hillary was extremely middle of the road, leaning right, leaning
well,
pretty hard right
no,
actually.
what I
But
mean,
no one felt that. They kept saying she was crazy left because our whole system's been skewed so far to the right, way worse than any other
but
country.
what I mean, and the way to get it back to center is that if you had four candidates and people were like hell no to Hillary, and the other half of the people were like hell no to Trump, then somebody that we all could have kind of liked would have won. You know, if it was like Hillary, Trump, Kasich,
But
the
that's
pizza
where
guy.
that's where tribalism comes in and sort of screws us over. Tribalism says, I picked this team, I'm gonna
Right.
want them to win no matter what.
Right. But you still have to fill out your second choice and your third choice. So guess what? If enough of us if enough of our
Oh,
third,
you're going back to the
yeah,
that other type of voting.
that's how
We
you
need,
that's how
we
you
need to look
fix
up the
it.
name of it.
Yeah, that type of voting, guys. If you're listening, look up this type of voting, and also remember to tweet #GunInsurance.
It's like elective voting or something like that.
Yeah, like elective
Yeah,
voting.
you
It's the it's
you
it
let's say
prevents tribalism.
yeah, because half the country might say number one Hillary, number one Trump, and then everyone else would say number two John. Oh,
Yeah.
fuck, what's his name again?
Number two, John Kasich, because
Gary Johnson.
Gary
Johnson. I
God,
was
no,
about to say John
no. You know what?
Kasich.
I don't even know if I like. I think I might like Kasich better than Gary Johnson,
Huh.
because I feel like Gary Johnson is a representation of. You remember, for most of our lives, the way they would attack marijuana legislation. They would go,
Yeah.
we need it medically. Like people weren't arguing, like, no, this should just be legal. And it was these goofy people that you're like, there's no way, dude, you're gonna get this passed. Stop arguing for it being medical, you dirty hippie, and just argue for it on its merit. And I feel like Gary Johnson is the medical marijuana of the '90s, when it's just like, can we get rid of him and get a serious candidate?
Someone that's just like, make recreational drugs legal, all of them, and then we can treat people that become addicted. Same thing we do with alcohol, right?
See, that's
Alcohol's just
that's
legal.
where
So if you have a problem with alcohol, you can be treated for it because it's not shameful to be public about drinking
I
alcohol.
don't agree with the war
Or
on
illegal.
drugs, but I also don't think that making heroin able to be bought is necessarily. Maybe if you want heroin or meth, you have to get it prescribed by a
I
doctor.
think, yeah, like heroin, crack, and meth, I think are like the big three that I personally would never choose to do.
Yeah. But I do think that you should be sentenced to prison for using. You should be sentenced to prison. You should be sentenced to treatment that works and
Yeah.
keeps being sent back to treatment until it sticks.
Yeah.
But yeah, so hashtag gun insurance and hashtag whatever the name of that voting thing. I really want to know what that was.
Yar.
Yeah.
We
So
have no clue.
So I think that's it for this week, man. I feel like we hammered gun control. We fixed the gun problem. If people will listen to us, we haven't.
I see a lot of people out there, like YouTubers and people on Twitter saying, "Look, I'm just saying this is a problem. I don't know how to fix it. Put the people that we elected in charge to fix it." And I'm like, Congress? They can't do anything right. Let's not count on them. Let's not wait for them to come up with a solution. They never will. That's not going to happen, especially under this administration, above and beyond all other things.
So
yeah, we'll fix it, and we did just fix it.
It comes down again to voting, man. We have to change. I sound like a hit. It's voting, man. We have to change the system. Here's the problem. Like, they're all beholden.
Temporize, man.
They're all beholden to one party or the other. There's no middle of the road candidates anymore. There's nobody in Congress that's like a Republican or a Democrat. They're all so separated. We need to put in a new voting process that counteracts tribalism. That was the whole point of the Constitution, was that it should have been a thing that counteracted the angels of our that played to the angels of our better nature. Because people are going to screw up, so you try to stack the game in that if they do screw up, here's a thing in place to fix the screw up. Yeah. I think we really got to fix the way we vote. But it bothers me because the only way to fix it is for the people in power to fix it, but they won't fix it because they're profiting from it. So how do we get rid of them and put people in that will fix it? Oh, we should also make voting like they do in other countries. Mandatory, and it should be a national holiday. Every time you vote should be like a half day or a national holiday or voting. There should be a voting week.
we were talking about the ways that they pass laws that are incredibly racist without them being called racist. Things like making sure that voting occurs on work days is one of the ways in which they're very racist, because that
Yeah.
stops black people from being able to vote. Like, I hate to generalize because that's like what racism is, but in a lot of African American communities, black people get together on church, and it's like, what's it called? Something to the polls? Anyway, they just get on buses at church and they bus on over there and they all vote. And now they're trying to say, well, now you can't vote on Sunday. That's specifically to stop them from voting.
Well, it also disproportionately attacks the poor because we've all worked jobs where, like, you don't get sick time, man. You don't come in, you don't eat. And if you got kids, they don't eat either. So that's the thing is we need to fix, but we need to get everybody out because.
But yeah, just make it a holiday and then, like you're saying.
I say make one day of the week a holiday, or at the very least extending voting hours. So voting hours are like from 8 a.m. to like 11 p.m. and you have an entire week to go vote. So there's a week, so you can find, even if you don't make it a national holiday, you can find sometime during the week to go vote, and legally you should be able to ask for a paid, like say like a paid 2 hours or whatever to go vote, right? If we can't make it a holiday, we'll make it that. But I think just making it a friggin' holiday. Make it a
Depending
week.
on the place, 2 hours wouldn't be enough, but
give people time to go vote because clearly the will.
The way work works in America is horrendous. Like, people never get time off here. It's just part of our culture, though. Like, in most of the other civilized countries, they get a month off for holiday, and they get maternity leave everywhere except for, like, here in Guam, I think. I don't know. It's like, anyway, that's a whole different topic for another time.
Yeah, workers' rights. Yeah, we'll tear into that one of these days. But yeah, let's fix the voting, man. Let's fix tribalism so that, like, look, I don't care if my guy doesn't get elected. I just don't want the worst guy that you can pick to also get elected. But if we can all vote just a middle of the road guy,
Gary Johnson, no one's happy, put him in.
Yeah, I'm fine with like, my team doesn't have to win, but I also don't want to be jailed in Guantanamo because your team won.
And we were also saying we don't have a team, but, Yeah,
that's the other thing. What about people like me that don't have a team? Like, it's the same reason I don't watch football. I don't care.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, I go
it was the birds versus the cheaters, right? I like birds, but I don't know.
I go and I vote, and I just look at the polls, and I'm just like, I hate all of these people. Why aren't there more choices? Like, why isn't there somebody that I like? And I end up voting. I think I voted third party in every election that I've ever voted in. Everyone's like, you're just wasting your vote. It's your fault that Trump got elected. I go, no. If you don't vote third party, you'd break the two-party system, you idiot. I'm doing my part. Don't get mad at me for doing my part. Look at your own self and go, oh, you just accepted what was offered instead of standing up and voting your conscience.
Though you did make a promise that if you voted third party and Trump did get elected, that you would join the resistance whenever we had to wrangle the government back from him.
Did I?
So,
yeah. I say so much stuff that you remember that I'm like, oh man, I said that? That sounds like something I'd say.
Yeah. Of course, now you're saying you would leave the country if he did that, so, you got to pick which promise you want to go with.
Well, I tell you...
Are you fleeing or are you taking up arms?
Well, I can... we can't
Actually,
say...
You better not say, that's a specific threat. Again, one rule of the podcast.
I just railed. See, you're trying to... It's like you're like an FBI informant that's been working deep cover my whole life just to get me to admit that I'm going to, like, threaten a sitting president... So then you can...
Bravo, turn 4, the eagle has landed.
Because I feel like the day I finally admit a threat against the sitting president recorded on a podcast, guys are going to zip line in through my window, and then, like, we find out that, like, your name's not even your own name. You're like, yeah, sorry, my name's Bobby Rosigliano. I got a family I haven't seen in... How long have we been friends?
Oh, wow. 15 years?
Yeah, I've been working deep. I've been working deep cover. I haven't seen my family in 15 years.
Yeah, I'm actually like 58 years old. Amazing surgery has kept me looking this young.
It's just been a deep cover operation to bag this one guy. Yeah, no, the problem is
we got George Zimmerman.
The problem is with that. The promise I made to
That,
take up armed
that's why they were
resistance.
calling you Zimmerman, because you are him, but we had to like relocate you in witness protection, and you were hypnotized to think you're someone else.
And also
And then you
hypnotize
were
me.
caught by the FBI deep cover guy.
I was going to say to hypnotize me, but also do something to make me smarter. Because that's my problem with
Oh
George
boy.
Zimmerman was like, he talked to the cops and he's like, hey, I'm tailing this guy with a hoodie. And they're like, sir, maybe don't do that. And he's like, Roger, do it. Okay.
Well,
But my whole point was, so I've come to this because I'm not taking up armed resistance against the government unless it gets really bad in that thing. I think it's better to flee because they can just drone strike you. But like I told the guy, if armed resistance is all you've got left, then you've lost. Then the rule of
yeah.
law is kind of like the lines on the road, right? They only
Yeah.
work if everybody believes that you should stay in that lane.
Yeah, there's nothing stopping me from just driving in the other lane.
Yeah, you know what's also great?
As long as we all agree to do what the rules are, it's just like in a classroom. Like if all the students decided we're not going to do what the teacher says, then the teacher can't make you.
Oh, I
We're all
can.
just sort of agree.
I can as a teacher, and I do.
But that gives
Try
away
me.
your occupation. You tried not to do that.
That's fine. I've given away my occupation. At some point,
We
if,
give up.
if someone wants to come after me, I'm just not going to go into specifics. I do teach, and I will try not to give away too much about where I teach and my students. But no, I've had groups of students that were just like, we're going to rebel, and now that I'm an older teacher, yeah, go ahead and rebel. We'll see how that goes because I've got leverage on all of you. That's why I find out. Oh, do you play any sports? So now I know about something you love, and I can use it against you. Oh, are your parents real hard on you? Like about your grades and stuff? That's cool. Yeah, I can talk to them. Like I got stuff. I got stuff.
Yeah. It sounds like that kind of makes you sound like Mar. You're slowly becoming her now. Tell me what you love so that I may take it from you.
Well, I'm using it for good. I'm using what you love against you to either
It's a slippery slope, Peter.
to either force you or manipulate you into embracing your education. That's all I'm doing. So the one thing I wanted to talk about before we go, because we're an hour and 16 minutes in, and I feel like this could go. I think the problem was we both loaded up on coffee before this started.
Yeah.
I've got a brand new French press, courtesy of my lovely girlfriend, and it's changed my life. It's so good.
I have a Keurig, and it's amazing because it's just instant coffee anytime. Get the morning blend, Green Mountain.
You can have coffee on a bagel. You can have coffee anytime.
I've had that song stuck in my head all week, and I think it's your fault now.
Why would you want?
Are you the one that sang it?
Why would you want coffee on a bagel? Shut up! It's a Keurig. Just drink it. So this thing about the French press is great because the coffee's so much better, and I think it's stronger. And the other day, I was between classes, and I had to go sign some paperwork, and I'm signing it. I'm like, why is my hand shaking? And I went, oh yeah, because I've drank like a gallon of strong coffee. It's good though.
Mm-hmm.
So the thing I wanted to talk about before we end this thing that I guess I will call probably Exhibit C, because I'm certain that a recording of this is going to be in a little plastic baggie in a courtroom. So you see that Exhibit C, Your Honor. Let's take a listen. The thing I wanted to talk about was
roll 212.
I've been reading it. I really enjoy it, and it has occurred to me that our president is the monster. He either is the monster from It, or Mitch McConnell is the monster from It, and he's pulling the strings.
Pennywise the Clown, he means.
Yeah.
Stephen King's It.
Yeah, Stephen King's It, that monster that like shapeshifts into your worst fears, and because he does. That's his presidency. He shapeshifts into some people's worst fears, and he becomes some people's worst fears, and then he dangles other people's worst fears in front of them, like immigration, like chain immigration.
I think that Mitch McConnell's a different type of old god. I think that he is your childhood pet that is dead. And the same dread and depression and sorrow you felt the first moment you realized that pet was dead is what you feel every time you look upon McConnell's face. So some people look at him and they do see a turtle. Others might see a bunny or a kitty or a puppy that was hit by a car right before their eyes, scarring them for life.
I will say one thing about McConnell. He had, not lupus, what is the disease everybody got during the FDR administration?
His Keanor, the beast of 1,000 faces, the goat of 100 young.
Will you focus for a minute? I'm trying to think of a disease name here, and you're just like you're going off into
syphilis?
like no, not syphilis. The kids were all getting it. It paralyzes you. FDR had it.
Oh,
Yeah, it's not shingles or syphilis. If FDR had syphilis,
lupus.
no, not we just established it's not lupus. All the kids are getting lupus.
Is it is it TB?
No, it's not tuberculosis. Like
it was a
I
disease.
feel like we're in a episode of House and we're like trying to diagnose a patient. I'm
It
just
wa-
like spitballing at the
Yeah,
board.
it's not always lupus, House. Good lord. I'm just googling FDR disease. What is it? Tell me. It's not telling me. Oh my god. President Roosevelt's paralytic illness. Tell me the name of it.
Try looking him up on Wikipedia and just do a control find for disease. The word disease.
Well, I know the March of Dimes was also started because it. So
Dime
it was
disease.
what?
He had dime disease. Nickelback.
No, oh my god.
It all comes full circle.
You are the worst person when I need help thinking of a disease that's not lupus. Is you just go into your old god like he was the god of 1,000 faces. God, it's gonna drive me crazy.
I'm
It
still
was
thinking of Mitch
polio.
McConnell.
My god, it's friggin' polio.
Ah, yes.
So I think, if I remember
Disease of
correctly,
1,000 faces.
Mitch McConnell had polio when he was a young turtle, and if I remember this correctly, I believe it was Mitch McConnell because like he was treated by donations from the March of Dimes, which was a charitable organization that was started to be like, if we can gather enough dimes, we can treat these polio patients for free because it's prohibitively expensive because we're all poor. And so this guy being a recipient of like basically welfare, people helping people out, then is just like, now I'm going to slash benefits from everybody else. I'm just like, God, I hope your polio comes back.
I mean, it's just like how, God, what's his name? Bill O'Reilly, his father benefited greatly from unions, and now he rages to get rid of unions.
Jeez, man, that's a whole other thing. Is like, I don't know why people hate unions because I just like, man, did you think you'd like working 19 hours in a coal mine? Then union up, like, come on.
Do you think your 12-year-old child should work 16 hours in a coal mine?
Yeah.
Then get yelled at by Rob Reiner when he goes to smoke a cigarette in a diner? It's
Yeah. Like, come on, man.
That's
Anyway,
just the right and the left hammering at you.
but anyway, we're about to wrap this thing up here because
We're
we're
super out of time.
we're super out of time. So one of these days, and we'll do it for you guys one day when we get a bigger following. I think we're gonna see how long we can podcast one day. We're just gonna see if we can put just like a 5-hour monstrosity up.
I see that going very poorly whenever we go for like 4.5 hours. Like, what was her name? Actually, it was Nancy Pelosi, right? She filibustered for 8 hours.
Man, look, I
We're
talked
gonna
to
go like that, and then at the 4.5 hour mark, the Skype's gonna freeze or Audacity's gonna break, and we're just gonna lose everything.
I've talked several times about how I don't like Pelosi and I don't know why.
Mm-hmm.
But I gotta say, man, I respect her for being like 100 million years old, filibustering, and like doing it in high heels.
Yeah.
Because I would say a formerly fit human being, I could not stand. I mean, I could not put high heels on and just stand up. Like I'm unable to do it.
It is awful.
So hats off to Pelosi, man. She's sacked up more than I can.
Yep.
So before we wrap this up, we're gonna hashtag gun insurance.
Hashtag gun insurance.
Hashtag gun insurance. When mayhem happens,
Make it trend, save the world. Just like save the cheerleader, save the world. Make it trend, save the world.
or
we have like a thing there, don't we?
or what
Maybe not.
what do they say with Geico when they're like, hey, I just saved a whole bunch of money on my gun insurance by switching to Geico. Okay, so that one doesn't work either.
Geico, a few minutes can save you 17 school children or more.
Oh my God! Yeah, so hashtag gun insurance. Fix the vote, man. Kill tribalism. Let's make it dead. Let's make things better. Or, failing that, guys, we can all flee the country together because it would be fun to take our audience of 8 people with us.
We can. Oh, if they really like us, and they might pay for our boat.
Oh, that would be great, guys. Let's. Eventually we want to get on Patreon, or we want to get on one of these.
A Kickstarter, GoFundMe for our tickets out of here.
So yeah, guys, we want you to go fund us and get us out of here before they start putting us in concentration camps.
I I'm thinking about going to like a small shanty in Ireland because I'm a poor planner and don't realize that the mosquitoes out there are going to eat me alive.
I think I don't know, man. I don't know if you would Ireland would depress me. Just I feel like because of the raininess of it all.
Mm-hmm.
I want to go. I want to go
What
somewhere.
would make you happier? Kokomo?
Yeah, Kokomo. Let's get there fast, and then we'll vote real slow. That's where we want to go. Way down in Kokomo.
Every bit of skill we displayed New Year's Day.
All right, guys. Well, that's been it for your podcast this week. I'm Peter.
I'm Pat.
Patrick Wild of Thrift.
And Patrick Wild of Thrift. No one's going to believe the word Wild is a real name.
Man, people don't believe that the school shootings are real, so who cares?
You're right. I mean, why don't we just like make up fake cartoon names, right? Like I could be Homer Simpson and you could be Peter Griffin.
Because
names that no one will ever believe.
Because we're not 10-year-olds that have been arrested by the police.
That's also an inside joke that no one's gonna get but us and like people that know us.
That's great because people that people that are listening to this really enjoy inside jokes.
They might. I'm pretty sure the 8 people are all like people we know personally.
All right, guys.
What are these two doing?
Follow us on what was it? Those Muckrakers at Twitter.
Oh, yes, at Those Muckrakers on Twitter.
And follow us. What can they email us?
Email us all your hate mail. What is it? thosemuckrakers@gmail.com.
Or your love mail. Either way, mail us. Hit us up.
We'd love mail.
We'd love to hear from you.
We're desperately lonely individuals. We need the
true.
attention.
All right, guys. I guess, and as always, keep your powder dry.